The snow was coming down hard in Moscow, the capital of Russia. It was early December, and the winter chill was already in the air. The city streets were bustling with holiday shoppers, and the winter holidays were just a few weeks away. The people of Russia had been living in a state of unease for the past few years. The world was in a state of political and economic turmoil, and the nation had been struggling to survive. With the help of the United Nations, Russia had been able to avoid the worst of the fallout from the global crisis, but the people were still feeling the pinch. The sky was dark and the snow was falling fast, but the people of Russia still had hope. They had faith that the winter would bring them luck, and that the future would be brighter than the present. The people of Russia were not the only ones feeling the effects of the fallout. The entire world had been affected in some way. Countries had gone to war, economies had collapsed, and tensions between nations had increased. It seemed that the world was on the brink of disaster. Russia had done its best to stay out of the conflict, but it was difficult to avoid getting caught up in it. The nation had been forced to accept refugees from other countries, and its economy had been damaged by the global crisis. Despite the hardships, the people of Russia remained strong and resilient. Inside the Kremlin, the leaders of Russia were discussing what to do next. The situation was dire, and they knew that something had to be done to prevent the world from descending into chaos. They knew that the only way to do this was to make sure that Russia was a strong and stable nation, and that it could weather any storm. The leaders decided that the best course of action was to create a new form of government. They wanted to create a system that would ensure that the people of Russia had a say in their own future. The idea was to give the people of Russia a voice in their own government, and to ensure that their rights and freedoms were respected. The leaders also decided to create a new currency, which would help to stabilize the nation's economy. They wanted to make sure that the people of Russia had access to the goods and services they needed, and that they could rely on the new currency to purchase them. With these decisions made, the leaders of Russia began to make plans for the future. They knew that the world was in a fragile state, and that the nation had to be strong and stable in order to survive. They also knew that the people of Russia had to be involved in the process, and that their voices had to be heard. The winter of 20XX was one of the coldest and darkest in the history of Russia. The country was still in a state of political and economic chaos, and the people were struggling to survive. But the people of Russia still had faith that the winter would bring them luck, and that the future would be brighter than the present. The snow fell harder, and the cold seemed to get worse, but the people of Russia still held on to their hope. They were determined to make sure that their nation would become strong and stable, and that their voices would be heard. They knew that they had to do something to ensure that their country would survive, and that the future would be brighter than the present. The winter of 20XX was a difficult one, but it was also a time of hope and optimism. The people of Russia had faith that the future would be brighter than the present, and that the nation would be strong and stable. In the months and years that followed, the people of Russia would come together to rebuild and create a better future for themselves and their country.